Stradivari certainly was the greatest violin maker that ever lived.
You just feel history resonating when you play an instrument like this.
Southwest Spine and Sports, providing personalized, non-surgical biologic spine treatments as an alternative to back surgery. Dr. Michael Wolf has 26 years of experience in regenerative medicine here in Scottsdale. More information about the disc seal procedure at swspineandsports.com.
Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, it's the Journalist Roundtable. We'll look at the week's top stories, including why Senator Ruben Gallego's planned visit to Iowa next month is fueling talk of a possible presidential run. The Journalist Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. It's Friday, and that means it's time for the Journalists Roundtable. And joining us tonight, Howie Fisher from Capital Media Services, Jim Small of the Arizona Mirror, and Jeremy Duda of Axios Phoenix. And we should note that Jeremy's wife works here at Arizona PBS. Gentlemen, good to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining us, Howie. We're going to start to you. Used to be that if you went to Iowa for anything other than family reasons, you were running for president. Gallego, Senator Gallego, he's going to Iowa.
Well, I'm not sure in his mind, although, look, we've had many Arizonans who've gone to Iowa thinking they could be president, yet to have an Arizonan elected. I think he's trying to raise his profile. I think he sees that somewhere down the road, having a progressive Hispanic person on the ticket, perhaps even as a vice president, would be helpful. So you raise your national profile. Does he have illusions of suddenly I'm in? I mean, look, you know, who knew what Barack Obama was several years ago? So it's a possibility, but I think it's just trying to raise his profile.
The focus of the visit is a Trump budget and the policy bill, Jim, and these kinds of state fair. But that state fair, that's a traditional stop for people kind of nosing around.
Yeah, it is, and certainly I think the closer we get into 2028, right? You hit that 2027 state fair. I think that's a different conversation than we are in 2025. I mean, I think Howie's right. I think this is about trying to raise national profile. It's about trying to, you know, also I think rally Democrats in kind of a, you know, in a more high-profile way than you can do in Arizona. I mean, he's going to Iowa, which means he's now being written about in, you know, the Washington Post, the New York Times. Everywhere is kind of looking at this and going, oh, who's going to Iowa? Let's write about them. Let's kind of, you know, let's talk about who this person is and what they believe and kind of what they're going to say and then what they say when they're there. And you know, I think this is one of those kind of early steps to try to, you know, boost your national profile and you know, like Howie said, maybe not do something right away, keep your powder dry immediately, but to set the stage maybe for something later on down the line.
He had a big piece earlier in the year in the New York Times that people are still talking about as far as raising profiles. I mean, he's young, he's Latino, he's got a lot, he speaks bluntly, he's a veteran, he kind of hits a lot of marks, but what are the Democrats looking for in a leader and in kind of a new face of the party?
Well, they're looking for something who can get them out of the mess they're in now, and I think they're looking for new faces, and I think that's why you're seeing a lot of attention on Senator Gallego right now. Is that, and he's, you know, for years he was in this very blue district. He was viewed as very progressive. Now that he's statewide, he's got he ran on a very centrist, moderate message. He's pushing a lot of the messages that looking to kind of correct some of the things I think a lot of Democrats feel like cost them last year, talking about how the tent isn't big enough. They need to stop with the purity tests. You need to, you know, appeal to folks who are, you know, the party is losing appeal to, that they're losing to Trump. I mean, we saw a study from, I think it was Pew recently, that showed that Trump did a lot better among Latinos last year than previously thought, something like 48% maybe. So there was a lot of places where the Democrats are losing ground, and I think if you hear what a lot of them feel has been the problem, Senator Gallego is really talking about some of those issues.
I think what's really fascinating is the other senator from Arizona, who was mentioned as a vice presidential candidate, you know, military, astronaut, married to Gabrielle Giffords. Even for the folks who don't remember her, know that she's involved in terms of some of the gun regulation efforts. And so I'm wondering what sort of friction is being caused there, as Mark probably figured, well, wait, I was here first. who are you, you little young upstart?
I would imagine the friction, if there is friction, it would probably increase, as you mentioned, as we got closer to those dates. But as far as a new message, a fresh message, something different for Democrats, goodness gracious, they've got to do something different, don't they?
Yes, and I think that this is, I think a piece of this puzzle, it's kind of a larger generational divide that we're really seeing among Democrats, where a lot of the leaders who in the Democratic Party have been leaders for decades. And there is, I think a growing movement, especially among younger voters and younger Democrats, younger progressives, to try to basically shake off, some of those folks like Chuck Schumer, who, while they've had a storied career, have been in charge for a long time. And I think that people kind of look at that and they point their fingers at it and they say, wait a second, we're in this mess. You haven't done anything to get us out of it. We need new ideas, new blood, new fresh, approaches to doing things. Let the younger people come to the table, the folks, whether it's Ruben Gallego or it's someone like AOC or any of these other, folks, Mamdani in New York, like the energy and the kind of just vigor that's bringing to Democratic politics. I think that there's an appetite for that. And I think it really is an old guard versus new guard conflict that we're starting to see bubble up. And I think we're going to see it a lot more as we get closer to the presidential election.
Yeah, I think we're also seeing, I think some of the folks you mentioned, we're seeing a very ideological divide too, and I think that's got something that a lot of Democrats have their eye on. Look at the things that, folks like Ruben Gallego, John Fetterman, some of the more folks viewed as, Mark Kelly, some of the folks viewed as more centrist are talking about it. Then, the AOCs, the Zohran Mamdanis, that, kind of resurgent kind of left wing of the party that's getting a lot of traction right now and a lot of attention, is a lot of Democrats are just very frustrated. They see the party really making no headway, no ability to really effectively resist the Trump administration. Of course, they're out of power right now, but a lot of Democrats, I think, what members of Congress and other Democrats are hearing is that the base doesn't really want to hear that. They don't want to hear we're out of power. They want to hear what are you doing. And so you're seeing a big divide in kind of not just policy, but in how to kind of conduct themselves.
Well, and of course, mix into all this and more on a national level is you have our good buddy Mr. Musk out there with his American Party.
Do you think that's going to make any difference?
I think he's going to have a hard time getting on a lot of ballots. One of the things that's very clear is there are 50 different rules for getting on the ballots in 50 different states. Now he's got, more money than Caesar, and so he can do that up to a point. I think what's going to happen is on the margins, if he gets on the ballot, let's say a few key states, what happens in 2028? Who does he take things from? And will it be deeper? In other words, unlike the No Labels Party, which only wanted to run people for president, I think he'd like to run people. He specifically said he'd like to replace certain members of Congress. Mm-hmm. That'll have a difference. I think it could even have a difference even in the legislature if they want to get involved in it. So yet to be decided, of course, given Mr. Musk, who has the attention span of a gnat, who knows?
All right, let's keep it a little bit more local here as far as Congressional District 1, Jim. Mark Robert Gordon, a voting rights attorney, apparently now he is the latest to try to be the Democrat who will take on David Schweikert. That phone booth is getting awfully crowded of Democratic candidates.
It is, and not unlike last year. I think there were 5 or 6 candidates in the race last year. Looks like we're going to get something similar this time. It's not really that surprising. David Schweikert has been vulnerable for several cycles now. I think Democrats have had him and had that district on their short list, for quite a while, trying to target it, trying to take it out. And so far, Congressman Schweikert has been able to weather those storms and kind of come out of those elections victorious, sometimes very, very narrowly, but has nonetheless held on to that seat. And so, I think that's like moths to a flame, right? Like there's a vulnerable incumbent, and if the tides shift and you can be that person who's right there, then you can be the one to kind of knock off that person.
And I think that's what they're waiting on. I think years ago, as Jim mentioned, he had ethics violations. Everyone thought, this is it. He's going away. He's still there. So I think what they're counting on is get midterm election, Republicans in power, a lot of Republicans, rank and file Republicans saying, well, wait, what happened? What are these cuts they're doing? Who's getting the tax cuts? How does that all fit together? And so they're counting on the fact that people are going to be disenchanted with the Republicans. They're suddenly going to realize who got the tax cuts, who didn't get the tax cuts, and is that enough to keep people home I don't know.
Well, but you mentioned tax cuts. CD1, I think, is the most affluent district, a congressional district in Arizona. I imagine a lot of those folks will enjoy the extension of those tax cuts.
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of that in that bill for people to love, and there's a lot in that bill for people to hate. And the district is so closely split down the middle. So on paper, it's just the quintessential swing district. But that's as you mentioned, why Democrats have constantly had their eyes on it and are repeatedly targeting Schweikert. And so many Democrats are getting into it, but we've seen David Schweikert's career in Congress for a very long time, and we've seen that he's a survivor. He's campaigns hard, he's tough to run against. He knows the district, and he has just been a tough out for the Democrats. I think last year they felt like this is going to be our year. They said, they looked at the year before, they very narrowly lost in a race they didn't really spend any money on, and probably think, oh, if we'd had stronger candidates, spend a little more money, we would have had it. And now everyone wants to be that candidate.
It's interesting. It doesn't seem like Schweikert gets enough credit for simply surviving, because every 2 years it seems like he's down. Real quickly though, I think we've got McCartney, we've got Mark Robert Gordon. There are 3 names there. I'll get them in. Marlene Galan Woods. We got Shaw, who ran last time. That's 4 and counting. I mean, does this mean when you have that many candidates? It kind of referred to this earlier, but I mean, someone could just kind of pop up out of the weeds, couldn't they?
Yeah, they can, and this is shaping up to be a race, I think, like it was 2 years ago, or in 2024, where the winner of the primary is going to come out with maybe 30 or 33%, 35% of the race, because you're going to have 4 or 5 or 6 people in the contest, and so you don't need. You're not going to win by a huge margin. It's very unlikely that you're going to have someone who's going to kind of run away with that district. And obviously, Amish Shah and Marlene Galan Woods both ran last time, and so they're hoping to, I think, take what they learned from that campaign and bring it into 2026.
All right, Howie, who is Dana Allman, and why does she keep getting work?
Well, it's good to be a friend with the governor. Dana Allman ran for the legislature in 2022 from Marana. As a Democrat, lost, and she is a retired lieutenant colonel, and so when the new governor came in, she said, I need somebody to run Department of Veteran Services, kind of shoved aside Wanda Wright, who was a nonpartisan, but that's another story, and installed Dana. Quickly figured out that Dana couldn't run the department, and the governor first on an unofficial basis, and then eventually replaced her with her deputy. And so there was Dana out there, well, what do I do now? Well, what they did is they created a job for her at the Department of Economic Security to handle helping veterans find their services, which is a job that didn't exist before, was supposedly the job of Department of Veteran Services. I first reported on this when we found out about the contract earlier this year, and I figured, okay, they kept paying her the same $170,000 she got as the director. We figured, okay, they're giving her a chance to transition out. Well, we find out now they gave her another year's contract at $170,000. She has a $114,000 a year assistant, and this is coming at the same time. They just laid off about 450 employees at the Department of Economic Security, and all I get from Christian Slater, the governor's press aide, is you're wrongly conflating 2 things. I'm sorry, money is money.
Well, Jeremy, the optics here are nothing if not fuzzy. What's this all about?
Well, I mean, even if they're separate issues, separate pools of money, as the governor's office is told, Howie, you said there's still the optics of it, not just in terms of at the time you're cutting all these 450, 500 folks because the federal funding got taken away in Washington, but also just that you created this position that no previous governor thought actually needed to exist, plus an assistant position, gave it to an ally who you tried to put into another department head, but couldn't get past Jake Hoffman's committee in the fight over director nominations in general. It looks bad for multiple reasons, regardless of where the money is coming from.
And it allows someone like Senator Jake Hoffman to say that it reeks of corruption. That's a quote from him.
Yeah, I think that it paints a picture, of patronage, and I think that that's a really easy narrative to sell, and certainly one I think the Republicans are eager to pounce on and to kind of beat that drum.
Yeah.
And the problem comes down to the governor is tone deaf on this. You would have thought after I did my first story earlier this year about Dana, big front page picture of her, job that was created, you'd say, maybe it's time for Dana to kind of land on her feet. total lack of understanding of this, which allows people like Jake Hoffman to come in, and while the governor says, well, Jake's just out to get me, well, you keep giving him fuel for the fire.
Yeah, giving him a little bit of a ledge to hang on to there. Okay, let's move on here to what looks like, I think 12 News had a story regarding unspent ESA, $450 million of unspent ESA money. Waiting for college, I guess? Is that what that is?
Well, it could be. Certainly, one of the functions of the ESA, the school voucher program, is that unspent money you're allowed to basically hold on to it and carry it over for future years. And yes, even into, defraying college tuition costs after the student is out of the K-12 system in Arizona.
Yeah, but I mean, $450 million, holding on to money is one thing. That's quite a bit.
It is a lot of money. I don't know if all of that is necessarily from this past fiscal year, or if this is the accumulated amount that's going forward. The state is spending about $1 billion a year, however, on that program. So, just to put that into perspective,
right.
I mean, that means that, families are holding on to and hoarding roughly half of the annual amount that is going into
And this comes down to the optics instead. Remember, empowerment scholarship accounts, vouchers, which is really what they are, started in like 2011 for children with special needs, disabilities and such. And they had this sort of creep, well, now it's the children of military veterans or foster children or children going to DNF schools. And then under Doug Ducey, they said, well, it's the Oprah Winfrey program. You get a voucher and you get a voucher, regardless of whether the parents were sending their kids to these schools in the first place. The governor's been trying to trim this for a while. I don't know if it's going to happen politically, but why, if you're trying to preserve the voucher system, would you not put in some curb and say, if you use it or lose it, as opposed to simply, you're going to get to send your kid A to Brophy and then B, you're going to get to send them to college at state expense.
Jeremy, according again to the 12 News study and the report, some families are stockpiling more than $200,000 each. And nearly 200 accounts out there have more than $100,000. It doesn't suggest that this money is needed for at K through 12 or whatever private school you want to take these kids to now.
Sure, and this is, it comes back to the issue that we constantly hear with ESAs is the issue of need. Is are we giving money to folks who don't really need it? There's no income cap on it, which really sticks in the Democrats' craw because you have a lot of rich folks who are just getting a taxpayer-funded discount on their tuition to Brophy or whatever. I mean, some folks are probably using it who couldn't afford it otherwise, but because we don't have that, the needs-based program there, you don't really know. Now, I think a lot of this money is is folks with disabilities. According to the 12 News story, it's like $440 million. I think about half of it was for non-disabled students. So maybe kind of set that aside, because I think there's in a lot of people's minds, there's a big division in kind of how that money gets used between those two groups. That's how we mentioned the original recipients of that program were supposed to be folks with disabilities. I think a lot of folks would be happy to let that program continue, but $220 million for people who maybe don't really need it at all and apparently haven't needed it enough to use it. And this, along with things like grand pianos and $500 Lego sets and whatever else people are spending with the program, it does create that optics issue of why are we giving this money away if people are going to use it for stuff like this?
At a time when the Trump administration is freezing education funds. I mean, we got like $118 million here in public schools. Are saying looking under couches for that kind of change.
And creating a national voucher program too, right? So I mean, this is working as intended. I think it is really, there's not oversight on it by design. There's not metrics, not guardrails on, not many guardrails in terms of who can get the money or what the money is going to be spent on by design. Letting people hoard this money and carry it forward and use it for college tuition is done by design. I mean, I think really, this is working the way that the Republicans who built the system want it to work, which is to essentially work as a parallel school system and essentially, rob from the government and give back to the people. This is a way for them to do that and to essentially say it doesn't matter that there is a societal benefit for everyone having well-educated students, whether you have students in school or you don't. We're going to make sure that, if you have, you get it, and if you don't, then you don't get it.
Yeah, it's your choice.
Well, it kind of harkens back to the comments that Tom Horne made when he was taking a lot of heat from the right over trying to put in some, fairly minor guardrails on what can be spent, what kinds of expenses would be approved. And his rationale was, hey, we've got a lot of people coming after this program because he's a big supporter of ESAs. So we got a lot of people gutting for this program, trying to make it look bad. Let's give them fewer reasons to do so.
Howie, Senate President and Speaker of the House with some court filings here regarding regarding abortion laws. Attorney General's not going to do it, so they decided they're going to do it. These are some of these. Do these laws still apply now that the voters, the Constitution says what's going on here?
Well, that's the problem. What does the Constitution say and how does it apply? Prop 139, which passed by like a 3-2 margin, says there is a constitutional right of women to terminate a pregnancy. There are somewhat different restrictions in terms of if it's pre-viability, it's almost an unlimited right. Post-viability, there are some restrictions. First thing to be struck was that 15-week law, and everyone concluded that was clearly forbidden by the Constitution. Now the question is, you've got a whole bunch of other laws on the books. 24-hour waiting period means you've got to make 2 trips there. Have to be counseled with given certain information, telemedicine bans, things like that. A ban on abortions by doctors if they know the reason the woman is seeking it is the gender or the race of the child. And what as you point out, the Attorney General said, I'm not defending this law. I think that, in fact, that Prop 139 makes them illegal, which left it to the House Speaker and the Senate President to go in and say, these are all justified. Now, what they're hanging their hat on is Prop 139 does say you can do things if there is a, quote, compelling state interest. Now, what's a compelling state interest of a 24-hour waiting period? According to the attorney, he says, well, it gives women a chance to think about it. What's a compelling state interest of a ban on abortions due to race or gender? Well, it means that we're not going to allow the state to have discrimination against people with disabilities. This is a little tricky. I think personally that Prop 139 is broad, particularly for pre-viability abortions. But I think that that this goes back to how many years have they been fighting before Roe was overturned to put in restrictions and see what they can get away with, and now they want to see what we can keep on the books.
Yeah, there were questions after 139 passed. Does that mean all these other things, mandatory ultrasound and no phone prescriptions, does that mean those go away? And initially, yes, that means I don't know about that.
Well, and it's not that they automatically went away, right? Like it's that you have an Attorney General who says, hey, I think that the way I read the Constitution is it kind of obviates these laws and means that I'm not going to enforce them because I think it would be unconstitutional to do so. But at the end of the day, the courts are the ones that need to strike these laws down, and that requires abortion advocates or plaintiffs, patients to go to court to file lawsuits and say, hey, this specific law is unconstitutional because of what voters did with Prop 139.
Sure, and remember that it's not just a compelling state interest that has to be met. It has to be the least restrictive way to do it that's possible. And so there's a couple of roadblocks that may hit in trying to defend these laws because this was written to be as expansive as possible. They didn't preclude the possibility of some restrictions, some regulations, but people who wrote this are very obviously, abortion rights advocates, and they wanted to have as expansive as abortion rights as possible, and they did leave this up to the courts. The Prop 139 does not automatically strike down anything. It does require you to go to court. The 15-week ban, everyone knew that was a gimme. No one even defended it. This is where the rubber really meets the road on this, and we all kind of saw that this is where the big fights are going to happen. All these other restrictions that have been piled up over 30, 40 or more years.
There's one more small legal point in here, which is a case has to be ripe in order for the courts to take it. And, former Justice Gould, who's now filing on behalf of the Speaker and the President, is saying Prop 139 has been in effect now for 6-7 months. Nobody has been denied an abortion. So what's the problem? Is these laws by themselves have not caused anyone to be denied an abortion. So he's arguing to the court, whatever you think about these individual things, the 24-hour waiting period, the abortion pills by mail, where's the harm here? And he's hoping that the courts will simply say, well, bring me a quote-unquote live person, live case, and then we'll decide that.
Yeah, that's down the road. All right, gentlemen, I want to end the show with a friend of ours, certainly a working person that we all worked with, and some of us worked very closely with, a regular here on Arizona Horizon for our cartoonist show, Steve Benson, Pulitzer Prize winner Steve Benson, died this week at the age of 71. as we mentioned, and these guys, Jim and Jeremy especially, and Howie, you knew him for years. You guys work with him at the Arizona Mirror. Just an amazingly talented journalist and cartoonist, political cartoonist. Won the Pulitzer Prize, was nominated a couple of other times, and as we mentioned, appeared here on our year-end cartoonist show many, many times over many, many years. Steve Benson, let's take a look at some of his past appearances.
And speaking of candidates, let's go to the GOP side. And all right, Steve.
Well, I tell you, man, now in Article 6 of the Constitution says there shall be no religious test or oath applied to those running for public office. But apparently these guys are falling all over themselves. They're trying to out-Jesus each other. And I'm going, Jesus Christ.
Let's start with these cartoons, and we'll start with the quid pro uh-oh.
You know, we got these liquefied spine responders in the GOP who they fall on their swords for Trump, and Trump doesn't mind this because at the end of the day he wants to survive, and so they go along with this obvious quid pro quo, squid pro mo, or whatever it is. I don't speak Latin, and it was clearly a payoff. It was a bribery scandal, and even as we speak today, the House has issued 2 articles.
We should say we are pre-recording this for later broadcasts, so thank you for messing that all up. Let's get it started, shall we? We're off and running. Let's get it going with state news and big news as far as the governor is concerned.
Absolutely. She's left us. She's abandoned us for greener pastures. She's going back to Washington, D.C. Miss Napolitano, don't leave us, Janet, as the Brewer crowd is ready to come in. Now, Brewer's office actually called, but they could only get out a grunt. Napolitano's office called and actually asked for the original.
All right, Jim, Steve Benson finished his career at the Arizona Mirror with you, and for a while worked with Jeremy over there as well. Talk to us about working with Steve Benson.
It was great. I mean, it was a dream in a lot of ways. You know, I grew up in Phoenix and born and raised here, and I, like so many other people, remember opening up the paper every day and looking for his cartoons. And I think Jeremy probably had the same thing. I know my wife did, where you did that segment in class where you learned about political cartoons and drawing and everything like that, where and you would study Benson's cartoons and you'd practice drawing them. And if you're like me, you feel terrible because you can't draw even a circle, a nice circle. But being able to work with him was great. I mean, he was incredibly kind and thoughtful, and I always, we'd have regular conversations. He would talk to me about what his cartoon was, and I would think I would understand it, and then several hours later, he'd send me a draft of it or a finished version of it, and I'd look at it and I go, oh my God, like this is so much better than I thought it was. He was able to evoke so many strong feelings and opinions and emotions in just a few strokes of the pen in a way that I think is really an incredible talent.
Gentlemen, we're out of time. I'm sorry about that, but maybe we'll get a chance to hear from you later, because I know you both worked with him, and Steve Benson was just a major force here in Arizona journalism throughout the years. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us on the Journalists Roundtable. You have a great weekend.
Tonight at 7